Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm so happy to be with you today and to have this conversation. So I met you through Patreon, but also mainly actually because of your artwork that I have seen on Instagram and everywhere. So can you tell me a little bit how you came to do that, how that started?
Uh, yeah, so I basically a little over a month ago, I was just talking to another fan, and I had done art way, way long ago, just traditional art mostly. And someone mentioned that they really wanted to get an iPad, and I just started thinking, hey, let me think about this. And I had gotten a new phone, and I had never tried using a stylus, but I knew there were drawing apps. And so I just grabbed a really cheap stylus, and it ended up being a really cool way for me to adapt and use something. And I just took off, and it was really fun, and I loved it. So I've been pretty much nonstop working on art since then.
And so how do you do it every day?
Almost. I had a little tiny break when I was kind of going. But yeah, pretty much every day I do something, or I look at tutorials and stuff to try to learn the apps better and understand more about the different techniques and stuff, because I never really worked too much with digital art that way, but I've done a lot of photography. So I knew like layers and all that kind of technical stuff, and so just practicing a lot.
And so, as I can see it, Ren is mostly who you draw
Oh
and
yeah.
who inspires you. Uh, so, how did it start at the same time, like this, the beginning of you drawing and maybe discovering Ren?
I discovered him back in April, and I started drawing I think in the beginning of November. And so I had gotten inspiration from him, and my whole life kind of exploded in a really good way when I found him and his music and the community. And I was already really hoping and really wishing I could get into art again and do something like that, but I really didn't think it was possible with my health conditions. It's hard for me. I'm shaky. I'm really shaky. I have a lot of issues like that. I can't sit up for a whole long time, and so um yeah, I didn't think it was possible, but then finding a way to adapt ended up helping a lot. And yeah, I think seeing him and learning his story and how he persevered through being really, really sick and still recorded music and did everything he could, that really helped and made me really want to do something similar, but with art.
And I have seen some of your artwork pop up on his stories sometimes, so you must be really, really happy about that then.
Oh. Yeah, two of my pieces, one got posted on Twitter. He reposted it on Twitter, and then yeah, one of them, my first one back into art, got posted on his stories. And thousands of people saw it, and it was just, oh, I cried.
Yeah. Every time I see your art pop up, I'm really happy for you because I'm imagining you at home, going crazy about it, and so
Yep.
that's really cool. And it helps because it also brings some people to your accounts, and so people can see everything that you do, and that's really, really nice because you're very invested in your art. Or so I think it's really, really nice of him to do that, and it must be really great for you to have people show some love for what you're doing. And
Yeah, yeah, completely.
yeah, so do you draw while you're lying down?
Hmm.
Yeah, and you do that on your phone whilst lying down?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I do everything on my phone. And I mean, sometimes occasionally I'll sit up a little bit and maybe do it on the couch. But probably 90% of it is just while lying in bed.
Incredible. It's really great. I love what you do. It's so beautiful. And it's even more impressive to know that you're in this situation and that you're still pursuing something that makes you happy, or something that helps you, with your emotions. And I mean, art it helps express so many things. So I think it's really, really nice that you are able to do that, and that you do it so beautifully. I really love what you do. It's really, really nice.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Oh, so going from there, can you maybe start to explain a little bit what your, because I know you have multiple conditions and what they are, and maybe because I hope there are some people that are watching the videos that are trying to learn something about chronic illnesses, because that is also one of my goals, is to spread awareness. So maybe try to explain what those conditions are and what the symptoms are that you are experiencing.
Yeah, so my main symptoms and things, so my main illness that affects me the most is POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And that one basically just is the one that makes it hard for energy levels for me. Hard to stand. I can't really stand more than probably about 10 minutes right now. Um, I I can on occasion do a little longer, and sometimes even less, but that's the main symptom that caused. But I had that really early on, from probably I had symptoms from probably about 13.
Okay.
And I didn't know anything about it. I just had tons of trouble exercising. I could stand, I did things totally normal. I thought everything was totally normal, but I was always the last one in PE or in physical education to run the mile. I was always struggling really hard, and I didn't understand why. People just thought I was lazy. And then I also had a lot of trouble with my cycle. I
Mhm.
had extreme pain, and I would even have times where I would come close to passing out or pass out, get really shaky. It was really scary. Didn't understand it, but was kind of told, "Oh, some people just have to deal with that." But that's
And
that's my main one.
so it's a heart condition, right?
It is a nervous system. It's a mess up with your nervous system, autonomic nervous system. But it does affect your heart. It's tachycardia, so your
Mhm.
heart rate goes really high when you stand. It causes a lot. It can cause so many different symptoms. And I have it paired with another illness called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. My EDS is pretty mild compared to other people. I've had a lot of joint issues, but I don't get full dislocations like most people do with it. Um, but they're usually comorbid. A lot of times people get both of them. And then I'm also going through the diagnosis of MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, similar to Ren.
So are you experiencing a lot of issues with nutrition too? Do you have allergies?
Yeah, that started a few months ago for me. I've
Okay.
always had some issues with food, but I never really understood it. Just kind of thought, oh, my stomach's a little sensitive, and I get tired after meals or different things like that. But then a few months back, out of nowhere, I started having weirder symptoms. I started noticing my throat itching when after eating. I started kind of having problems with gagging or coughing.
Mhm.
And then it got to the point where for about the whole month of October, I wasn't really able to eat almost anything, and that's what ended up putting me in the hospital.
Okay. So you mean like recently? You ended up in
Hmm.
hospital recently? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I'm sorry.
when was that?
At the beginning of November.
Okay. And so did you run a bunch of tests or something regarding the MCAS when you were in hospital then?
It's pretty complicated, unfortunately. They did run a lot of tests, but there's not a whole lot of definitive tests for MCAS. And I'm going through the motions of our healthcare system to try to work on that. Though, if you go online and there's like there's a lot of different things to look at for it, but there's specifically I saw a basically like a checklist of all the different kinds of symptoms, and it had something like a number system that you check which one you have and you add up the numbers at the end. And this is for doctors too. It's not just for patients. It was for doctors to be able to diagnose it. So I just kind of did it myself to see. And I think the threshold, it was like you needed the point system of like 14 points. And I had, I think like close to 30 points, when
Okay.
I read it. And so I had so many of the symptoms, so many things. And so yeah, there was a lot. So it's very, very likely I have it, but unfortunately my insurance and all that's gonna take a long time for a diagnosis.
Yeah, that's always what I discuss too in these conversations on this series, because I have been interviewing people from around the world. So I've had Joanne and Irene are in the UK, and I had Beth, who is in Australia, and you're in America. And I have friends who have chronic illnesses here in France, where I live. But what I can see is that we all have um, quite different health care systems. I mean, between yours and mine, it's very, very different between France and America. But still, I mean, people could think that in some systems it's easier and the diagnoses are better, or faster, or more, that doctors are more invested in the patients, but it's not always the case. And what I can see in my conversations about chronic illnesses in general is that whichever country the person is in I'm talking to, it's always quite complicated. And I think there is something in general with diagnosis from with chronic illnesses that still hasn't evolved enough, and that also has to do with the lack of funding and research and all of this. So I can believe that it must be quite difficult in the US to experience all of that.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It feels I've also had an insurance change, and that's something for us that we have had to deal with. And so having to get all new doctors, having to go through all this stuff over again because my POTS and EDS diagnoses were back in 2017. And I had a different insurance, and so I kind of knew how that one ran. But now it's almost like a whole different system, even though it's in the same country, same place, but different insurance. So I have to do things completely different, and it's really unfortunate that it's so difficult.
You said you were diagnosed at, was it at 13 that you were diagnosed with POTS, or was it later?
Yeah, it was much later. I was 27 by the time I got diagnosed.
And didn't your GP suspect anything before that?
No.
Okay.
I was told when I started going through all these issues, most of them surrounded my cycle. I was kind of just the energy levels. I was basically just told to exercise more, and kind of it was insinuated that I was just a lazy teenager.
Okay.
Um, and then I would have so much trouble around my cycle. But then I was just told, oh, some women just have to deal with that. Um, and I never really knew anything was wrong until I also have a kidney disease.
Okay.
Um, I have something called polycystic kidney disease. And it ended up uh, in 2017-ish area. I got really sick because I got a kidney infection.
Okay.
Um, and when that happened, I ended up it progressed to sepsis, and I was hospitalized, and that seemed to trigger my POTS really, really bad. I didn't know I had POTS at the
Yeah.
time, but all of a sudden I couldn't stand hardly at all. It was almost, it felt sudden to me.
Mm.
And that's when suddenly I was taken seriously. sort of. And in the hospital they went through all the tests. I had to get a lumbar puncture. I did all these extensive things. And that's when I was diagnosed with POTS, and my cardiologist finally said, "Oh, was this just out of nowhere? You've had any symptoms before?" And I thought, yeah, just completely out of nowhere. Don't know what happened. But then he started talking to me and got me thinking about everything else. And that's when he said, "Oh no, you've had symptoms of this for a long time.
Yeah.
You just had no idea."
Yeah.
And that was extremely validating, um, and also really hard to hear. Because not only did at that point I heard so many people telling me that I was lazy, or telling me that I just needed to try harder or anything like that. I also didn't really know much different, and so I started really judging myself. I started not understanding all these things that I was going through and having a lot of problems and mental health issues because of it. And not knowing why, hey, it's so hard for me to clean the house. It's so hard for me to take care of the things that I need to do. And everyone else seems so fine. Why am I struggling so bad?
Yeah.
And so to find out that I was actually sick, and that there was something wrong that whole time, it was really wild.
I suppose that you went through all of this self-doubt, thinking that something, that you can feel something is wrong, but that maybe what is wrong is just you and that you're not able to do anything right. But then I think it must be quite, there must be such a difficult moment when you get the diagnosis after so much time, because you're probably happy to get a diagnosis and to think, well, now I know what the issue is and what the problem is, with my, biologically speaking. But then
Yeah.
also to think back on all of those years where you just, were filled with self-doubt and all of the dismissal, because I probably can believe that you felt dismissed a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, I went through that all, and it was really, really hard to process, honestly. And that went on for a year, and I was also having to use a wheelchair when anytime I was going out, and stuff like that. And then unfortunately, I kind of went through that whole process again of discovery, and realizing that it wasn't just my POTS and just the EDS and that stuff, in this last few months, because not only did I go through all of that, but in 2018, I suffered from psychosis.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and so what happened was I went to take a medication. I was struggling because of my chronic illness, with some mental issues. And I started a SSRI.
Mm.
Um, and I know for some people that's super helpful, and it's something I thought I should try. But unfortunately I had a really, really adverse reaction to it. And I didn't realize what was happening, because
Can you just tell people what an SSRI is for those who don't
yeah,
know?
an antidepressant. An antidepressant. Um, uh, and I don't mind telling, but I took Zoloft. And so, yeah, that I now know that likely because of MCAS, that can actually cause reactions to that. And so, yeah, it's a little rare to happen, but I was misdiagnosed at that point. In 2018, when I took that medication, um, I basically didn't sleep for a week. I didn't realize that I wasn't sleeping. And so I basically had kind of like nightmares, but while awake. The ambulance had to be called. I completely feel like I lost my mind. It was a really wild experience. But instead of They didn't understand what was happening either. Doctors didn't. And so I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Ah.
Um, but uh, I know now that I'm pretty sure I don't have that. But their treatment was to put me on antipsychotics. Um, and they caused even worse symptoms for me. They stopped the psychosis after 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but unfortunately, they completely stripped away my personality. Um, I lost so much of myself. It was really hard, and when I was struggling with that, I was basically just told, "We're really sorry, but you have bipolar disorder, so you're gonna have to be on these for the rest of your life." Um, and that was I was so lost at that point. I just kind of accepted it. Um,
Yeah.
um, and so I became a complete shell of myself for the next 4 years. From 2017 to 2023, I was medicated
For
heavily
bipolar
on,
disease. Okay. And
yeah,
how did it come to the point where they thought maybe it's not bipolar?
they never did. It was
Oh,
me.
okay.
Mhm.
And what what pushed you to that idea then that maybe it wasn't bipolar and that maybe those meds were actually not doing any good for you?
It was kind of a culmination of things, but what happened with me, in at the end of 2023, my husband lost his job, and so we lost our insurance. We lost our insurance, and I didn't know what to do because of my medication. I didn't know how I was going to get it. I didn't know anything about that. And I had already had times when I would accidentally miss doses.
Mhm.
And for other people, when I was on message boards and stuff, that was a huge deal for them. To miss a few doses, it would make huge differences. They would sometimes go into mania.
Okay.
And I noticed that I never had those issues. Um, and so what happened was I basically decided to wean myself off of my medication to then hoard it and save it in case I really needed it again,
Okay.
until I knew and understood what we were going to do for money and for that,
Yeah.
because I can't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't been able to work. And so when I stopped the meds myself, decided to do that, which I don't recommend anyone do.
No,
But
it's not a good idea. Even if it sometimes is necessary, it's not a good idea to go to do that all by yourself. I think probably the best way to go about that kind of thing is to change your GP and to find someone who can understand, find a doctor who can understand you and who is maybe more open to different things, but still to change your the healthcare you're getting, you need money to do that too, because you need money to go to the doctor. So I can understand that in your situation, you if you wanted to change anything, you had to do it by yourself. You didn't have the choice because you couldn't go to see the doctors.
exactly. But what ended up happening is, over the first month or two when I did that, everyone around me started to say, "Oh my God, you're acting so much like yourself. What's
Ah,
going on? You're." I was suddenly I had a little bit of happiness and personality again. And I I never had any symptom of mania, anything like that.
did you feel like it blocked off all of your emotions somehow?
It blocked off my emotions, my passion. The thing, I love music. I've loved music. I wanted to work in the music industry as an artist of some sort, an artist or some sort of photographer, anything. I used to do theater, so I wanted to tour. I love music with all of my heart. And so I lost that. I suddenly hardly cared. I had, bands that I loved and I really did love, but it wasn't the level of me. It
Yeah.
wasn't anything like me. And everyone around me recognized it. Um and so that changed when I slowly started to shift back to myself in April. That's when I found Ren. I discovered Ren.
I had someone, I think it was B or Beth, in the last interview, who said, someone told her Ren comes to you, always comes to you at the right time. And it is also something I have experienced too. I mean, if we look back at our lives, we do experience that in different shapes and forms throughout life, because I think some people in general come to you when you need them, or when they need you. And so I was talking with Joanne about how I deeply believe in life's crossroads, that we are on a path, that we can choose which path we want to continue on when we arrive at crossroads in life. And that it is not, I do not believe in fate. I don't believe that we have one path and that we cannot, don't have any free will to do something else with our lives, and that we just have to live through. I think we really are just walking on this path, and that we arrive at crossroads sometimes in our life, and that when we're at the crossroads, sometimes people are standing there and waiting for us, and then we can choose which other path we want to go on. So I know that this is also what happened, for me with him, as it has with other friends or other people that have been really important in my life, or other bands too. So yeah, I can fully understand that. And I think that maybe if you hadn't, we'll never know, but I mean, if you hadn't gotten out of it, and that you weren't as aware of, you know, everything around you, and that you didn't have the passion that came back, maybe you wouldn't have experienced him in the same way.
Completely. I know that I wouldn't have I mean, I'm sure I would have liked him. I'm sure it would have been interesting.
Yeah, of course.
But the the level in which I fell down the rabbit hole, the 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 extreme connection and just amaze that I had, definitely if I was still on that medication, if anything like that, it would have been, yeah, it would have been nothing like it was. And then for me to hear his story, me when I saw Hyren,
Was that
when
the
I
first
heard,
song that you listened to? Okay.
yeah, yeah, I watched the video,
Yep.
and the end monologue when he talked, I didn't know for sure that he was sick. I didn't know anything. And then when he mentioned illness, my ears perked up, and then he mentioned psychosis, and it felt like my heart stopped. My sister was watching with me, and she takes care of me a lot, and now she just does so much for me, and she is just as into Ren as I am. Uh, we
Okay.
watched we watched that video together, um, and we both were in shock. It was amazing, and yeah, it changed me. It definitely changed me. It changed us.
I think just to see that video, and how they made the video and everything, that it's just like such a good presentation of who he is as an artist. And I think it's really difficult to see that video and not go down the rabbit hole, and don't and just to, it's such a special song, and such a special performance, that I think it's just so normal to think, who is this guy? What did I just witness? What is this? And to then try to find out some more stuff. So I suppose you have seen the chapters too.
Yes. The chapters came out probably just a week or two after I found him.
Oh, okay.
He, yeah, they were definitely right around there, maybe a month. But I know me and my sister watched every single one basically as soon as it came out. We were completely enthralled. I actually within the within the first couple days of me finding him, I watched every single video on his YouTube channel. I I think with it, I don't know how long it took me, but it was all I did. When I woke up, I would just play everything I could. I just wanted to know all of the information. And then I also get tattoos too. I've gotten
Oh, do you have any tattoos that are related
I
to him?
I have yeah, I have 9 different tattoos and all of them have to do with music.
Okay.
And then for him, this one.
Oh, really cool. Oh, that's great. I love it.
And that was I got that on my birthday just on November 17th this year.
Oh, so that's a fresh one then. Fresh tattoo. That's really nice. And what is the next one then? Because usually when you start with tattoos, you always have ideas for the one after. So,
Oh, I've had so many different plans over the years. But I also make sure that like I really 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 want it before I get it. And sometimes, I mean, to be honest, with finding Ren, I probably within the first like 3 weeks would have gotten it. But but uh but that's kind of what I do. But yeah, I have definitely a few planned out. But I'll have to wait for a while. I am gonna get one with my husband because he doesn't have any. And I have
oh, right. Oh,
like
that's
yeah,
nice.
I have like chest piece here goes across, and like I have a good number, some larger, but yeah, he doesn't have any, so he wants to finally get a little one with me.
So, going back to your situation today, what what is in what's the plan for you? How do you manage to build up some type of future or routine or something, some plans or projects you have? How do you manage to do that? Because in your situation, people must think it's almost impossible to plan anything or to imagine a future or to, project anything. So how do you do that? Because I'm sure you have things planned and you have, some ideas of where you want to go and what you want to do. So how do you manage to do that?
I kind of play it by ear, a lot. I Everything I set up, I keep in mind it's tentative. It's not for sure. I can't solidify many things. And luckily, like when it comes to going out or doing anything like that, I have a lot of really really supportive people in my life, that understand if I have to cancel, if I have to have a lot of accommodations in a situation. They help me, they all help me. I have a really great core group. And then just for personal things, with art, with stuff like that, I extensively, my mind works so fast. I have so many things that run through it all the time. And so I start just writing things out on my phone and trying to kind of brainstorm and figure out what I'm going to do and try to keep a schedule, try to do things, especially when it comes to taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Um uh I have to try to plan out, recently me and my sister, we try to get up in the morning, get some sunlight, trying to do more meditation, trying to just do things like that. And one of my other best friends, she messages me every day to remind me to do those things.
What I get from what you're saying is that actually what helps you move forward is not only yourself and how you motivate yourself to plan things and to move forward and to feel well as you can on any given day, but it's mostly because you have a really good support system around you, and that is really important to have.
Yeah, yeah, that's the biggest thing. And a lot of it, I also have to kind of remind myself not to lean on them too much though. I try not to lean on them for my mental as much, because they have to do so much for me physically all the time. They
Mhm.
have to, my sister cooks for me. She helps me wash my hair. She helps me do all that kind of stuff. And so when I'm struggling mentally, it's hard for me to go to them too. And then I feel like I pull them down a lot. and they're already doing so much, it's really a struggle, and I still have so much trouble with it. But honestly, just finding the community that I found with Ren has been a huge help mentally. Finding my passion in creating art again. That's really what really helps me the most. To just plan out what's gonna make me happy in a day too.
I think the also because the community around the renegades is just expanding so much, and there are more and more every day, so everyone can find someone who's going to understand them in that community, and who is maybe going through the same things, or had the same symptoms, or had the same struggles in life. And so I think everyone can find someone that is going to help them through. And I think on the mental side of things, the community is really helping a lot of people.
100%. And for me, even the people who don't go through the same type of thing themselves, because so many of us are so invested in Ren's story, the empathy they have
Oh, yeah.
um uh, for people going through things like him
Yeah.
is so much stronger than I've seen in the normal population,
Yeah.
the non-Ren fans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think people just this is also, as I said, it's also the purpose of this series I'm doing, is that I want to bring awareness to people, because if you it when you start understanding what someone else is going through, and you start feeling empathy for that person, then you can expand that empathy to so many other people, because you're just more understanding of what is happening. And there is no way even someone who would have never heard from any of your conditions would not feel a little bit of empathy for you and for your situation. So I mean, it's just that's the beautiful thing about these types of communities, and what he is doing, the work that he is doing to bring awareness to everyone, regarding all of these issues, I think is really great. So I know that, yeah, shout out to the Patreon, because they're really great, and the group there is really nice. And to the rabbit hole, because I mean there are so many people now. I don't know how many there are today, but I think 27. What is it? Is it 27,000?
It's definitely up there. It's close to that. It's somewhere between, I think it's 27 now. I think it
Yeah,
hit.
I think it's 27,000. So imagine, I mean, 27,000 people. And so you can imagine that not everybody is ill now, or has been, but it's really, when I see all of the posts, I think, generally the exchanges and the communication around all of this is really positive, and I think it's really, really nice. I wanted to ask you if you had any message you want to bring the people that are watching this video, and anything you want to say that can, maybe something that you learned through all of this, something that you want, someone you want to shout out to, or some message of resilience that you want to
Uh,
bring to say.
I think mostly I just want to say to do what's best for yourself. Everyone out there, thank you to all of the people that have shown me support, and find your people. Find your people, reach out if you can. And I'm always down to talk to a lot of people too. And also I definitely have found a lot of friends, um a lot of friends now in the last month and a half too. Yeah, definitely just I think resilience, pushing through, and having faith in yourself. Having faith in yourself is the best. And also just I love everyone. I love everyone, and showing love is super important.
Yeah, love is really, really important. And I have discussed this with a friend of mine, where we talked about, the importance of what we leave behind, of what we are, when we are here. And I think it's just, I have worked with elderly people when I was really young, and I've been around death a lot. And I know that no one that I ever met that was at the end ever said they were happy about buying XYZ or, anything that was materialistic. It always came down to relationships, always, always. And it was always, who have you loved? Who loved you? What have you done that you're proud of? And those are always the core the core issue and the thoughts that people have when it's the end. So it has nothing to do with the rest. It also always has to do with love, always. And I think it's the most important currency that we have, actually.
Oh yeah, me too. I totally agree. Um, Honestly, that's after everything I've gone through, everything that's gone on in my life, and I've also lost a lot of people too. Um, from the age of 6, my grandmother, it was so hard for me, to continuously lose people because also my family, I was adopted, and so I had a lot of older family, because my parents were older,
Mm.
and so I, I dealt with loss a lot, and it made me actually realize how important love was that whole time, and how important it was to tell people I love them. And now it's honestly, I feel better. I feel more loved and everything than I ever have before. And I feel like I'm, even through struggling, I am richer than other people, even though we might not have money.
Yeah.
Um, but I have enough. I have enough with love.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I love you a lot. I
I
think
love you a
you're really great. I think you're a great person. I think you are, even though you're struggling through life and having all of these negative things happen to you, and I mean, you're keeping this heart really big that you have, and you're just exuding sympathy and love and empathy, and I think you're a great person. I think what you do is really, really nice.
Thank you so much. You're making me cry.
Oh
Oh,
no,
thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Well, it's happy tears. Happy tears.
Thank you so
No.
much. That was so sweet. Thank you. You're
Oh,
so amazing.
thank you. Well, it was I think, I don't know if you want to add anything to this conversation, if there's anything more that you forgot about. No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, thank you so much for being so open and sharing all of this, because I know it's not always easy, and it's a big load to, and so I'm really grateful that you did this with me. Thank you so much, and I'm sure this video is going to help, many people feeling alone at home, and there are so many people that are in a similar situation to yours, and so this is going to bring a lot of hope and love to all of those people. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Lisa. You're amazing. I love you, and I will totally keep in contact. I'll see you around. That's Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Unheard. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to get more of that. And check out the description of the video and the links in my bio to see how you can help with the research. See you soon.